So it's 9 o'clock, and it looks like we've got a fairly good group that's joined us already. So to keep things on track, I'm going to go ahead and start. Tanyanyahi, good morning, welcome. I want to start first of all with a very quick land acknowledgement, just to let you all know that I'm coming to you from the unceded territories ancestral home of the Chiricahua Apache and the Tohono O'odham here in Southeast Arizona. And I invite all of you all to put in the chat whose ancestral lands you are coming to us from. If you don't know, I invite you to look it up. It's something we should all be aware of. Good morning to everybody, and welcome. Before we get started, there is something that I wanted to bring up and address. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and one of the things that we are seeing these days is a lot of people being unkind to each other. I don't know if it's the pandemic or what's going on, but there is a rise, I think, in a lot of people just being generally unkind to each other, and especially online. It's much more easier when we're keyboard warriors. So I just want to remind everybody that here with the Alinker community, we are a kind community. We may not always be nice, but we are always kind. We want to treat each other with kindness. That's so important. That's one of our values. That's one of the things that we stress. And one of the things that we want you to know about this community, that it is a safe community, it is a kind community. That being said, there are people out there sometimes who do act unkindly, both within our community and other communities. And we want to let you know that that does not represent the Alinker team. We here at Alinker, like I said, we are here to be kind. And so just know that anything that you are experiencing within our community that is coming across as unkind to you, please let us know about it. We want to know about these things. We want to know when this is happening. And also know we are a very friendly community, very open with each other. We ask each other questions. A lot of people give each other advice, which is wonderful. We want to encourage that. But also know that the community does not always represent the Alinker team. Our advice might be a little bit different from the advice you get from somebody out in the community. So please know that the customer service team for Alinker consists of myself, Brandon, Bilqis, and Emily. And if you have any customer service questions, problems, things, please address them with us. We will take care of them for you. If we can't take care of them for you, we will figure out what needs to be done and who we need to talk to get it taken care of for you. So just know that. Again, please know we are a kind community. And that's what we want to stress. We want to stress that we are here for each other, and we are supportive of each other, and we want to be loving and kind in everything that we do. So thank you very much for allowing me to address that. Part of us being kind to you is trying to make sure that you know what to do with your Alinker when you get it. There's a lot of questions, especially for new users. Brandon and I are both Alinker users, so we've been through that. We know what it's like when you unpack that shiny yellow device and you're so excited about it, and then you start trying to figure it out and you're like, wait, I'm not quite sure how to do this. So Brandon is here today to try to answer some of the more frequently asked questions that we get. So we get a lot of questions that repeat over and over again. And so Brandon has kind of taken those and put them into some categories. And he's going to try to address some of those things. So he'll be doing some demonstrations. And then as he's demonstrating, if you have questions, you can pop them into the chat. Bilqis and I will be monitoring that. We will go from there. And then towards the end of the hour, if we have time, we will open it up to any questions that we haven't been able to answer. Also, if there are any questions that we haven't answered, pop them into the chat, because we're going to be doing this hopefully once a month. And what we can't get to today, we'll get to the next time. So welcome, everybody. Thank you. Brandon, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Bilqis, can we get the house rules before we begin?
Yes, of course. Just going to be sharing my screen really quickly. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Brandon. So just going over some housekeeping. This is, again, a different type of meeting that we have today from the ones that we usually have. So please be aware that this meeting is being recorded and parts of this webinar may be used in the future. Messages in the chats are not private. It can be seen by all. So please be mindful and respectful. Like Stephanie mentioned earlier on, today's Zoom meeting is a webinar. This means that only the host can be seen. Also, all participants will be muted throughout this webinar, so please use the Q&A icon to ask any questions that you may have throughout the webinar. The Q&A icon is located at the bottom of your screen. We're monitoring this at all times, and it will look somewhat like this. There is also a chat icon located at the bottom of your screen. This please use for comments and not questions. Please pop all your questions in the Q&A icon section. If we are doing a screen sharing like we are right now, the host and the co-host will appear at the right-hand corner of your screen. This window may interfere with parts of the presentation. If that is the case, all you have to do is minimize it with the button at the top right-hand corner. It should look like this. That is it for the housekeeping today, just because we don't have too many things that we're using, but the Q&A section. So please, again, remember, if you have any questions, please pop them in there. I'm going to pass it back to Brandon.
Thank you so much, Bilqis. And hello, everyone, and good morning. Hi, B. See that you're done eating now. We can't see you, but like Bilqis and Stephanie has said, please utilize the chat and the Q&A to get to us. They're both going to be watching that closely so we can answer all of the questions. I do have an outline of what I'll be going over to today, different things that I feel are crucial for Alinker users to have in their tool belt to properly care for their Alinker and to keep moving. So let's go ahead and first acknowledge that there are already some pretty great resources out there for you. My favorite happens to be the Alinker family Facebook group because it's all Alinker users that are in this group here on Facebook. So you're not just asking Alinker, you're asking actual users that are out there every day using their Alinker. And they're always really fast about getting back to answer you. So please join that group if you haven't. Also, the Alinker manual that you get with your Alinker, if you've placed that somewhere that you're not aware of, if you just Google Alinker manual, there is a complete digital copy of it online available to you. You can search through the manual if you're needing to know a specific type of specific part of the Alinker. You can search it there. And also on alinker.com, we have a facts page with frequently asked questions. and a lot of those can be answered there. We will be doing these calls probably about once a month. So if you don't have the full month time to wait, if you're needing an answer for a question, please check out those resources. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to start with talking about greasing the axles. This is more important for some users and less important for others. It really depends on where you're at, what you're doing, and what you take your Alinker through. For me, as you can see by my tires, I take it through a lot of dirt, gravel, mud, lots of rain. I'm outside when it's raining, snow, anything, I go out in it. So I grease my axles regularly. I just pulled out my axle pin and I've actually already got grease on my fingers. So this isn't something that I need to do, but I'm going to do it for you guys. The type of grease that you use will depend on, again, your user, how often you're out, how much debris you're getting into the axles. For me, I'm a heavy user, meaning I put a lot of weight on the Alinker. I'm right about the weight limit. Again, I'm through mud, I'm through water. So I use an automotive multi-grease. You can use a fatty grease, a clear grease. I just use one that's a little bit more tailored to keeping dust and things out of my axles because, again, I live on a gravel road. So you're gonna push the pin like you already do to pull your tire off your Alinker, and then you're gonna be holding this pin. You're gonna take some of the grease onto your finger, and I would suggest these two pins that lock everything in here at the end, and this one that pops out, that you make sure the grease gets on there, because if you get rust and debris into these parts, this could become locked onto your Alinker, and then you're stuck with your tire on there. You can't pull it off to put in your trunk. That is the downfall of what happens if you do not grease these. You will get to the point to where your tire will not come off. So after you put all the grease on there, we're just going to slide that back on, and now we've got this protected from the elements, from heat, from wear and tear. Oh, I put a rag in my pocket just for this. Look at that. So make sure you clean up, because that stuff does get everywhere. If you use the clear grease, the white grease, it's not as dirty. I have noticed that when I use the dark grease, if I pull the tires off in the car and I set that down, sometimes I might get a little grease spot on my carpet. So definitely look at the different types of grease. I think B called it fatty grease or fat grease. It's a little bit cleaner than this dark gray grease that I'm using. Again, how often you do that depends on you. So if you're taking it through creeks, always out in the rain, every time it rains, make sure that you're checking that often. But if you're an Alinker user that when it's raining, I'm going to stay inside, I'm not going to go out. I've seen a few Alinker users that somehow keep their Alinker from having any kind of scratches or dents or anything on it. Bravo to you, but that's not the type of user I am. You won't need to do this as often. And the quickest way for you to tell is to pull that pin off and to see if there's grease, to see if there's any kind of corrosion or rust. So that pretty much covers greasing the axle. Do we have any questions? Stephanie, Bilqis,
Yep.
Any questions about greasing?
Yes.
We do have a few. The first one is just asking what product that you just showed them, if we
Okay,
can list
so
that.
what I'm using right here is just an automotive multi-vehicle grease. It's called a gray grease. Hold on a second. It's a general purpose multi-vehicle axle grease. This one is for wheel bearings specifically, so it works really good for something that's constantly having friction on it. But pretty much any type of grease will work for you. It's just keeping something on the pin to keep water from being able to seep into all the cracks and the mechanisms within there. So I don't know if anybody else has any recommendations. This is dirty, but I feel like it works really well for me here in Eastern Kentucky and being on gravel and in dirt all the time.
Okay,
Joe is asking, can you use lithium grease?
I don't recommend using any kind of spray-on greases. I don't know if they make lithium grease in a tub, but this is something that you want to rub onto there. If you spray it on there, a lot of it's going to evaporate. You're not going to keep most of it on the axle. I recommend using a tub of grease or a tube of grease that you actually have to wipe onto the pin. Definitely not WD-40. It is a water displacer. It is not meant to lube up anything or protect it. It's just supposed to keep water from building up on things. So please don't just spray WD-40 on your pins. Please put grease on them. How do you pull the axle in and out? So it's really simple. It's probably one of my favorite things to show on the Alinker. It's just a simple push the button and pull. The hub here has a spring in it, and this controls the little pins here on the end, and that unlocks and locks it. It's really simple. Both your tires come off, and it makes it even easier to load and unload from your car. So yes, it's pretty simple. You just push on that and pull the tire off at the same time. Bicycle shop grease. That sounds awesome. I've never heard of bicycle shop grease, but I'm sure that is probably the perfect grease to use for your Alinker. This is something that I already had, so I've had it for years. If you buy a big tub, they're pretty cheap and they last forever. So it's not a huge investment.
Monica
I
asked,
do
was
have
the manual in the box? Yes, the manual does come in the box, but Jen, our other customer service representative, has popped that in the chat there for you too, the link to the digital. So
thank you, Jen. Yes, and the digital one is I mean, honestly, it's kind of easier to use the digital one because you could search keywords, like I said. So it is pretty simple to use the online one. I use it often, even though I work for Alinker. There's always questions popping up, and I go right to that digital. I can't think of the word. Digital manual. There we go. I found it. Any other questions about like the back tire, the seat clamp, seat adjustment? I'm going to be getting to those things. Right now we're talking about just the greasing of the pin, and I think we've got all the answers for that answered, all the questions for that answered.
I think so. Thank you, Brandon.
Okay. All right, put the rag away.
It looks
Now
like
we're gonna
we
move.
did get 2 more questions just right now.
Okay.
Do you recommend greasing the steering linkages?
I don't. B, do you have anything to say about that? They're internal parts, so I don't think that they need to be greased.
Generally, you wouldn't have to, if you're in a lot of salt, like in the Montreal winter, for example, salt gets into everything, and then the little rod ends that are connecting the steering in the front, you can put some grease on there just to protect it. It will eat away in salt, not in water or anything else. But
we don't have a whole lot of salt here in Kentucky. We don't hardly ever have to treat our roads. We're lucky for that. But I do know that salt does eat cars, rust them away. So of course that would probably be an issue. So if you are in snowy climate where they use a lot of salt and you're on the roads near the salt, yes, you might have to grease up those steering linkages. Something that I haven't had to do yet, but it's there. You said a couple more questions there, Bilqis.
Just
Are they in
one
the
more.
Q&A?
Yes,
Okay.
the last one is there a wrong way to put the axle back in, like if you flip the tire?
Yes, absolutely. So there is only one way. I actually had it in there backwards. The flat part sits up against the Alinker, and the recessed part takes the hub, and it kind of sits down inside of it. So if it doesn't look like that, and it looks like this where it's popping out, that is backwards. So you want the flat part with the bearing up against the Alinker. Good question. Another one.
I think that was it for.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will move on to handlebars then. So I will start by saying that I love the stock handlebars. This is off of my Alinker. It's been put through the ringer. I use it on the farm. But what I want to talk about is the versatility of this handlebar. You can purchase an aftermarket one, handlebars that go on any Alinker. If you take off your Alinker handlebars, you can actually see the size of it right here. So you can't get it wrong when you're ordering. It's a 31.8. But I recommend trying the stock one in many different positions. So the first thing we can do is we've got these 4 pins here. We're going to get our Allen key set. You do get one with your Alinker, but these are only a few dollars. Get the blue one. The blue one is metric. This one is American English measurements. I feel like the metric is actually made for it. They fit into it better. So we'll start with, I think it's a 5. Nope, it's a 4. So these 4 bolts here is a size 4. We take and loosen all these, not take them all the way out. And that allows us to adjust this angle. So this is sitting in the Alinker here. I can move them up to me. I can roll them away from me. There's also marks on that. So you can mark where you're at so you can know that you're adjusting a little bit farther. But that's not the only way you can adjust. You can tighten these down. And on the side here, which is a number 5. So the top one's a 4, the second one, the side one's a 5. If you loosen this one, now this adjusts. So not only do you get adjustment here, you get adjustment here. You can stand it up, you can put it down forward. So if you don't like your handlebars, your first course of action is not to order a new set. It's to first try these out in different settings. It took me probably 2-3 months to find a comfortable position. Me being a bigger guy, I like to roll mine forward. That way, when I'm going up hills and things, when I lean towards my handlebars, I'm not leaning into them. For people who aren't as big as me, that's not an issue. So that's what's so great about these handlebars is they adjust to pretty much any user. And it tall, short, it doesn't matter. They can adjust to where it can work well for you.
And there's like a million different settings that you can, between the two different adjustments, there's a million different positions to put it in. So just experiment with it.
Yeah, I recommend that you do this when you're sitting around, maybe stretching. You can do it on the Alinker. Both of the screw things are there, and you can sit there and adjust it while you're sitting on the Alinker to really find a comfortable hand position. I had a user who was telling me that he wanted to order a new set that were like 8 fingers that came up because he was reaching down. It wasn't comfortable. And I told him about this. I said, you can adjust it up and you can adjust the other part of it up. And then they're up here by your head almost. So yeah, it's something that is very customizable. But again, if you want to purchase a different type of handlebar, definitely look at your size, the 31.8. But also keep in mind that if they're short, close together, that's going to add the amount of energy you have to expel to turn the handlebars. For me, with somebody with CRPS in my hands, if I had to constantly put a lot of pressure on short handlebars, I would have the same effect as using a cane. My hands would become stiff and red. My CRPS would flare. So the farther out the handlebars come, the less leverage you have to put on to turn the handlebars. And if you've ever used the Alinker off-road, you know that sometimes you really got to put some pressure in there to turn the handlebars. So just make sure you take your time and try out the stock handlebars in different ways. And then if you go to order a different pair, an aftermarket set of handlebars, keep in mind that the shorter they are, the harder you're going to have to turn. All right, questions about handlebars?
Yeah,
One little thing I'd like to add is like these handlebars, as Brendan said, is very versatile. And if you grab the front of the handlebar and put them up like this, you actually get a lot of support to your wrists. Some people, especially with MS or arthritis or something, have reduced motor in their hands, reduced grip. And so you can put them like that you grab the front part and lean on, exactly, and lean on and get extra support. That's why we have the double bars, because they do give the extra support.
Yeah, it not only support, but it's so many different ways to put your hands. I have numbness issues, and being able to readjust how I'm holding the handlebars is really useful. It's something you don't even really notice until you just said that, B. Yeah, it's really cool to be able to rest your weight and your arms in so many different ways. And that's why really stress that people should try different settings on their stock handlebars before they purchase an aftermarket one, because these things really are made for the Alinker. It couldn't be better if you ask me.
Kimberly is asking, she's saying her handlebars feel uneven. Her feels like her right hand sits higher than her left hand. I thought I fixed it, but other things weren't lined up. I'm not sure what to do. So I don't know if we have any suggestions for that or not. I've never.
Well, when you first started to read that, these two screws here that you loosen and tighten, if they aren't tight enough, your handlebar can rotate different than your wheels. Your alignment will be out. So that's what I thought you were talking about. But what I'm hearing is the handlebars are like this or like that. I've never heard of that issue. So it sounds like a bent handlebar, but unless I saw it, there's nothing that I could do. So I don't know how they could be uneven because they rotate on the same axis.
The thing is that the steering does go through an arc. So if you steer to the left, the steering does this and goes to, because it's Ackermann steering and the wheels are actually going through an arc. So if the wheels are not necessarily perfectly aligned with steering, like they're a little bit like, how do you do that? Like that, then this part is lower. But if they're aligned and then one part is lower, it sounds like the handlebar might have had a ding, like some force on it or something, and be bent. But could you maybe send us a picture of that from the front taken so we can see that the wheels are aligned and what's happened to the steering? If it is bent, then it would have to be replaced. And we will support that. If that happened during transportation or something, we'll help you find the handlebars that you can put on.
I'm getting repetitive strain type pain in the backs of my upper arms. Is that just a matter of trying some adjustments? Yeah, one thing I've always noticed about the Alinker, if I'm having any kind of discomfort or pain, there's a way to adjust it. And sometimes I adjust just because I've been using it so much in one day that I'll adjust the way my seat is so that my weight's sitting differently. So any kind of discomfort or any pain, yes, please try some adjustments. I had seat pain for a month, and then I adjust the angle of my seat, which I'll be getting to later. And now it is so much better. So it really is something that be designed to where you can set it up for you. So please play around and figure out the best settings. So that way that it could be as comfortable as possible. It's not built for comfort, but with work and determination, it can be a really useful vehicle. And to be honest with you, it doesn't really cause me any discomfort anymore. And I have been using it for 2 years. Let me make that clear. The first few months, yes, discomfort, just like buying a new bicycle. So please, yes, try new settings. Yeah, metric size Allen keys for sure. You really just use the 2, the 4, and the 5 on a lot of the Alinkers. So, but I recommend a set just because of how cheap they are. If the handlebars and wheels are straight, that is lined up right, is that correct? Yes. When you put the handlebars on, you just want to hold the steering wheels as straight as possible and line up the handlebars to it. And when you get using it and you're going in a straight line and your handlebars are a little bit off, you'll notice that, and you just loosen those 2 Allen keys and straighten them up. Can handlebars be retaped? Absolutely. So mine need to be retaped. I use tennis wrap tape. Don't recommend it. I've heard a lot of our users use hockey stick tape, a lot of our Canadian users, and they swear by it. So I am definitely going to be ordering some hockey stick tape. But yeah, they make different types of wraps for tennis rackets and things, but I don't recommend the tennis racket tape. It didn't last very long. That was one of my biggest things.
Someone's asking about the lock. They have an issue with sometimes not being able to get the lock on.
On the brake, I'll be going over
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought they were talking about the handlebars. So if you don't get this screw all the way tight, this one here, sorry, this one adjusts this right here. If you don't screw that tight enough when you're using the A-linker, this will still move. So make sure you tighten everything back up correctly. And if it moves, just tighten it up some more. Thought it was fixed, thought I could fix it, made something else not even. Kimberly, I can get in contact with you later on today. We can do a call and we can try to get your A-linker even. Sometimes it just takes another person there talking with you to get everything right. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the seat so that we can stay within time. So I'll start with the simple one. This isn't something that I knew that we needed to discuss. That's probably because I rode bikes all of my childhood, but this is the seat clamp. This is something that I've seen my entire life because they use them on bicycles. For other people, they're not bike riders, they weren't aware of it. I've learned that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna describe this to you as best as I can. This is what the seat slides down into. And I've had some users say that when they're using the A-linker, their seat moves left to right as they step. To fix that, we're just simply going to take this off, not take it off. We're going to undo it. And then we're going to take this screw on the other side and we're just going to screw it tight. Now, when I get it real tight and then I try to close it, it's not going to close. And that's because I've gotten it too tight. If you have to put a lot of pressure onto it, that can actually damage the A-linker. So we want to make sure that we're just putting a good amount of pressure by adjusting this left to right, right being tighter, left being looser. And once we get it into a good spot, we clamp it down in there and we try it. If your A-linker seat is still moving left to right, just simply take the clamp off, tighten it down some more, and put it back on. And this is also something that you'll need to adjust for you. Someone that is bigger, heavier like me will have to have it a little bit tighter. So definitely mess with this seat clamp adjustment. You want this to be tight so your seat isn't going down or left to right. It will cause you to think that your A-linker isn't working right, but it's just a simple seat clamp. Now, seat clamp holds this into place. And this seat, as we can see, isn't the normal nose up like we normally see with the A-linker. And this is because this is a seat that I use. Mine is more of a flat. And I got to that point by constantly changing and adjusting my angle to find it. Now, I've noticed for most women who use A-linkers, this seat needs to be up at an angle. For me, that was different. To do that, we're going to take the number 5 Allen key, and we're going to back one off and tighten the other. Back one off, tighten the other. So by tightening this one and loosening this one, I'm going to bring the nose down. If I want to bring the nose up, I will loosen the front one and tighten the back one, and that will cause the seat to come up. So if you see here on your bike, it's got on your seat, it's got the angles marked. It shows you what to do. It's pointing at these 2 screws, and we're just going to want to adjust this. Also, if we loosen both of these screws all the way up, let's see if I can show this on camera. So if we loosen both the screws all the way, this seat actually slides forward and backward too. So this is another adjustment that you can do to try to make your A-linker as suited to you as possible. For me, it's all the way back. I'm tall. I'm trying to be as far away from the handlebars as possible. And again, I want my nose to not be pointed up. For female A-linker users, it seems like being pointed up in the air is better. So you're just going to, again, try different settings to figure out what works. Make sure that you're getting everything back tight. Yes, B.
On the side of the rail, there is a maximum that you can put it to the front and the back. If you put it a little bit further than the max, it will have a cracking sound sometimes because you actually overburden the seat. So the sliding in the rail is to the max of the white little indicators on the side of the rail.
And that goes to this black plastic here. Okay, so as B just said, we're gonna look for that max line, and we're not gonna wanna go past that, because I have heard that sound, and B, to be honest with you, I was past the max. It makes a weird popping noise when you're in the grocery store and everybody's like, what is that? It's
And ultimately it
because
will,
I said it passed the max.
right, and ultimately it will actually damage the seat, and then you need a new seat.
And we don't want that. The seat is also interchangeable. We have a lot of beginning users that will try the seat, and of course there's discomfort and pain in the beginning. That's with every bike seat. The first thing that they want to do is try to get an Alinker seat, or a seat for their Alinker that doesn't have the nose on it. It's great for sitting. I will tell you right now that an Alinker seat that's nice and wide and doesn't have a nose, you can sit and listen to a concert for hours and be comfortable. But when it comes time to move, to do any kind of distance or moving with the Alinker, it's nearly impossible. I call it my concert seat. If I'm going to use it, I keep it in a bag and I'll put it on the Alinker when I'm going to be standing for a long period of time. It is not something that you can use to exercise. I would love to save you the $20–$30 of purchasing one. Only purchase it if you're going to be using it to sit. I've never heard of someone who bought a wide no-nose seat that was successful with it. B, Stephanie, have you ever heard of anybody that's been successful with that?
No.
So I'd love to save you the money and tell you to just try another nose seat. I will say that you should sign up for the newsletter, because in the works, Alinker is always working on things to improve the seat, the wheel. Handlebars don't really need improvement, but definitely sign up for that. But if you want to go your own route and find an Alinker, a different seat for your Alinker, most seats that you'll see online have these rails on the bottom of them, and you just simply take these two screws out, and this mechanism will just clamp onto that different seat. You can also purchase other seat pins, this pin here that goes into the Alinker. So that way you have two different pins that can fall into your Alinker. That way you're not constantly taking the screws out to put it back onto the other pin. But the stock Alinker seat, once you break your butt in, once you get used to that, I've tried other seats. I haven't found a better one. I really love the stock seat. Any questions about adjusting your seat? B.
Yeah, can I just add something about the seat? I mean, like a bike, I'm from the Netherlands. A bike seat is never comfortable, standard, just not comfortable, and it shouldn't hurt. We've done a lot of research to end at this seat. This seat is wide enough to provide the perfect cushioning for the width of your sit bones, and it doesn't matter if you're a skinny person or a wider person, your sit bones, the structure of your butt is the same. That doesn't change. So, and there's, Brendan, if you can hold up the seat again, there is a cavity at the back of the seat, a cavity, a hole. So your tailbone doesn't have any pressure, exactly. There's also that sort of channel in the middle that provides for not too much pressure on your front parts. Where the Alinker is so different than any kind of bike, and for men, this is a little bit different, as Brendan just said. In the bike world, people put the seat flat or with the nose down. When you do that, you slide forward and you actually give more pressure on your private parts, causing pain. We have learned over time that the seat actually needs to be up with the nose a little bit, not extreme, but just a little bit up. And again, experiment with that. What it forces you to do is sit on the back of the seat. So your sit bones actually sit on the back edge of the seat. This forces your pelvis to rotate back a little bit, which opens up your spine for information to your brain. And this is something that we have learned over the years, that that specific thing of using the Alinker activates the brain. We have lots of people that have MS that report or feed back to us, I feel tired after using it, but energized. There's something that is in the medical world completely disregarded of brains We medicate because there's a problem. We send signals to our legs when we walk, and then the feedback loop of when you walk, it actually feeds back to your brain what happens down there to make corrections. When you use the Alinker, as you activate the highway for information to your brain, you constantly inform the brain about this is happening down there. And the brain is like, oh yeah, I can motor again. Neuroplasticity is real. The brain wants to work and can do a lot more if we activate it. The brain can find new neural pathways, to find new connections with the legs, can find, theoretically speaking, and what I think we witnessed, reroute neural pathways around lesions, for example, in the brain, around obstructions. We have people that have spinal cord injury that can reroute neural pathways and the brain can find ways to go around obstacles if we activate the brain. So that is a special thing about the seat. It's not most comfortable, seats are not, because it does exert pressure on your sit bones, but sit in the back of the seat, tilt your pelvis, open up your spine, and then you can lean forward a little bit and really make gaze.
I couldn't agree more, B. It is something that it's not just that you feel that your brain's being reactivated. It changes your thought process. It changes the way you look at going out with family and everything. Your brain knows that that is going on. And when it goes to think about future things, it has that information now, like, oh yeah, well, we can do that now. So it's something that you feel in your gut along with feeling in your body. It's quite remarkable. And it's something that I look forward to when new Alinker users get their Alinker is their thought process changing and what they can do with their life. And this is why we're doing this today, is to make sure that you guys have your Alinker set up the way that is going to match your determination and is going to be a valuable tool for you to get out and reactivate that brain and to feel some endorphins pumping through your body as you get your heart rate up and your respiratory rate up. It is something that is just indescribable, the amount of change that it has in your life. I'm really excited to be here and to be talking about this, but we are running out of time. It's already 12:42. I don't know how we got here already. We did the seat clamp adjustment and seat angle adjustment. So are there any more questions for this?
I see that there are a bunch of the same type of questions, people asking how to know that the seat is at the right height, and if they have the seat on the lowest level and they feel like they need it lower, what should they do?
Okay. So when you're adjusting your seat, it's really going to depend on what shoes you're wearing, what type of ground you're walking on. You can be walking on gravel and go to grass and you need to change your settings. So it's something that you're going to have to get a feel for, depending on the shoes you're wearing. And don't be afraid to stop every once in a while, even while you're on the Alinker, undo your clamp, adjust it, and retighten it. There is also a spring in your Alinker seat. I saw someone bring up a computer chair. This does also give you spring. It moves if I can do it hard enough. So not only is this Alinker seat designed for the Alinker in the way the padding is, but that spring in there is actually adding more comfort and longevity to the Alinker, less friction and getting bounced around. Let's see. I shortened my seat approximately 1.5 inches beyond the quick release lever. My seat is too high. I ordered the smaller Alinker. There is different saddle pins, this part that goes into the Alinker that you can order online, that will not have this spring here. So the Alinker seat can set onto a new post, and that new post will go to here instead of to here. Currently, when this post goes in the Alinker, it stops there. If you order the other post, it goes all the way down to there, and that adds about that much room. So most people who are using a small Alinker and say that they need to go down a little bit, that changing that pin can be huge for you. One of our one of our more active Alinker users, Heather, who has done marathons and I can't even remember the name of them, but they're 50 some miles, or it's a lot of running. She has her pin changed, and that works perfectly for her. So if that's something that you're wanting to do to get your Alinker lower, please reach out to me or to Emily or to any of us to get that figured out for you.
I changed my pin as well. I needed
Did you?
that, and yeah, I needed that extra 1.5 inches, and it made a huge difference for me.
Awesome. Also, the HS is in the works. That make sure you're signed up for the newsletter. That is going to allow a lot more people to have access to the Alinker, as it's going to open up to different inseam sizes. So yeah, we're in the works for sure.
One more quick one that's a little bit unusual that I haven't seen before in a question is it okay to hang a bag from the seat stem?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people put the rolling luggage handle through their Alinker post in the airport, and then they're just going around with like a trailer behind them. Absolutely, they have bags that actually attach to these two things here, and you would have like a storage pack here on the back of your Alinker. Also, they actually design seat bags that work on the Alinker. I believe Kevin has a really cool one on his actually. I would recommend honestly putting a bag there before putting a bag on the handlebars, because anything you put out there hinders motion and it makes it harder to put in and out of the car. Chat. Vaseline for lube, petroleum jelly. I don't know if that, no, I wouldn't use that at all. It definitely needs to be a grease.
Vaseline doesn't prevent rust because it's
okay.
So no Vaseline.
No Vaseline.
Chris is asking, and this is, I know, a common thing for a lot of folks, that he's only had his Alinker since Thursday, or she, I'm not sure. My left foot often hits the back wheel when I'm walking. Does this mean I need to adjust the seat?
I would say no. Yeah, B.
I think it's getting used to it, and it's a sort of way to be aware of corrections in your body. And if you kick your foot against the wheel, you can train yourself to use your foot slightly different and get a different gait, because the wheel is so small and so narrow, so that there's no obstruction behind you. And so if you kick your heel, you know, especially people with Parkinson's, I've noticed, really hang to one side, and then you kick. So it's a corrective. Use it as an awareness thing of like, oh, I need to correct my my posture.
Yeah, muscle memory is definitely a big thing there. Knowing where that back tire is as your foot hits it. Remember, also something that I would like to say, when I'm using the Alinker, normally both of my feet are on each side of the wheel. But when I make a right turn or a left turn, I'll actually put both of my feet to one side of the wheel as I lean, and that keeps me from hitting my back foot on the tire as much. So again, when I turn right, I'll have both feet on this side. When I turn left, I'll have both feet on that side. You can mess with a little bit. You can watch B's live from the CBS Innovation Nation, where she goes weaving in and out of trees, and you can see the bee lean, how you're leaning when you're going around curves, and you can actually use both feet on one side. And that's helped me a lot to not run over my feet. It was something I did a lot at first, and it does hurt. It scares you a little bit.
That's for very advanced users.
Very advanced users. I'm sure that we have some advanced users in this Zoom right now that are like, I do that all the time. But yes, please work up to it. Don't be going out trying to do that first thing. Okay, so we've got 12 minutes left. We've still got to go over something really important. So let's go ahead and move to the brake adjustment of the Alinker. We had someone ask earlier that they couldn't lock their brake out anymore, and you would assume that the adjustment would be done up near the brake handle. It's not. It's actually done here at the back. You see this cable that sticks out here from the brake? That's actually the cable that runs all the way through your Alinker up to the handlebar. And to the way to adjust the tightness of it, if it's too tight, you can't push it down far enough for that pin in the handlebar to go down below. So you're just going to take, oh, where'd it go? Oh, it fell. Got it. You're going to take your number 2, I believe. Yep. Number 2, and you're going to put it in this right here by the cable, and you'll loosen it. Once you loosen it, you can then adjust the cable forward and backwards. If it's too tight and you can't lock your brake, you're going to want to push the cable back into there and then tighten it down. If your brake isn't engaging when you push it, if it's really easy, you're going to want to pull some cable out before you tighten it back. This is going to allow you to park it. And also, if you're needing some more stopping power when you're going downhill, if you adjust this cable, you can adjust it for that. This is something a bike shop can do if you're not comfortable with that. But to be honest with you, if you try it yourself, or if you have a family member that tinkers with things, works on a car or something, this is fairly simple to do. So you might be able to find someone around you. If not, a bike shop can do this for you. I meant to have a brake pad with me and I don't have one. I apologize about that. You can kind of see it here, but anyways, this brake pad, it wears, it's metal and it wears on this rubber wheel, believe it or not, but it's not, the second you start seeing the metal wearing, that doesn't mean that the pad is bad. There's actually a little ridge line back here. And once that's completely smooth, then I would say that you would need a new brake pad. But I have yet to have an Alinker user that's wore out their brake pad. Have you, B? You have, okay. No, you haven't, okay. This is something that was designed to be pretty much like the life use of the Alinker. If you do wear out a brake pad, please send us a picture because you've been putting some serious miles on your Alinker. But yeah, it's pretty simple. If your hand strength isn't there and you need to be able to lock the brake easier, it's a number 2 Allen key. You loosen it, you push some cable out, tighten it back down, and just work the handle as you do that, your brake handle. And you'll be surprised at how simple it actually is to adjust that.
One little comment on that. If the cable is too short, people have tried to loosen up the things at the brake handle. That's only to tighten the brake cable. So if you try to loosen them there, you actually make the cable tighter, and you might actually damage those little screws. Those screws are only to make the, like if you give a little bit too much space on what Brandon just said at the back, and loosen up the cable a little bit too much, then you can adjust the screws on the handle to make it tighter again.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that there was adjustment up there. That's cool. I'll have to look at that some more. I thought that was just to secure it in place, but apparently you can do some adjusting up there too. I've never had to do that, but yeah, it would save you some time from having to go back down here again.
Kevin
Even
just corrected me.
Alinker users learn something.
Kevin just corrected me. He has worn out his brake pad and I have sent him a replacement. So Kevin is the first, yes.
Okay, so we
Well,
do
that's
have a
excellent.
worn out brake pad. That is impressive, Kevin. Well, I don't know if we had any questions that we didn't get to. If we didn't, please email them to me so we can email them to any of us so that we can begin to build next month's technical webinar. I would love to see how many questions that we're unaware of that are out there. So if you have them, please let us know. We'd like to get to the bottom of it so that our Alinker users can have all the tools they need to be able to get out there. Yes, B.
Kevin is bringing up the rear wheel status. We have developed a new rear wheel that doesn't have an inner tire, so it cannot lose air, which is very annoying. And we're super aware of the discomfort that comes with and annoyance that comes with getting flat rear tires because they're finicky. and they have been finicky from the beginning, and it's what we had to deal with because we couldn't find a replacement of a tire that has enough give in it. You don't want just a solid rubber tire, as we have seen people use it, and it's better than nothing and better than a flat probably. So please do that for the time being if you can find it. And maybe who was that again? Not Kevin, but Kevin, help me. The guy who had that wheel and put it in the Alinker family group, that he found a replacement wheel, but it's hard rubber. So the wheel that we have developed has proper bearing that is fit to the bearing, Kevin Edge, to the bearing for the Alinker, for what it's tested for. That wheel that Kevin Edge put on there is not necessarily tested for the same weight capacity as the Alinker. And the wheel that we have has rubber with holes through it. So it actually has a bit of a give. Current situation in Taiwan, and if you read last week's newsletter, I put a lot of information in there about what the supply chain challenges are that as a result of the pandemic. Orders are a lot slower, cost a lot more money on our side. We'll have to go through a price adjustment sometime this year, maybe. We're trying to prevent that, but the reality is different. The supply chain, raw materials, etc., is very affected. We had ordered extra rear wheels to be spare parts for people. The expectation right now is that we're getting the first 200 wheels somewhere in July, to be confirmed. Nothing is as it was before. We used to order Alinkers like 100, 150 at one time. 4 months later, we got a container. Currently, we have to order minimum 1,000 units. And then it takes 18 months plus before we get the order. We have prepaid orders right now that are scheduled to arrive in 2023. The world has changed a lot. We're doing our best, and we're also trying to keep you as best informed about the dates. But even dates have changed. Like before, the shipment arrived in the harbor. Great. No, now the ship has arrived in the harbor and it's laying a month in the harbor because they're back. They're
Backlogged.
Thank you. Backlogged on clearing ships. And then there is an unexpected custom control, and they don't tell us that. So it's very hard for us to get proper information on dates. So please bear with us if you're waiting for an Alinker or if you're waiting for orders. We're doing our best, but everything has changed dramatically. We're lucky to be in the position that we had orders in, and we're into 2022 good, hopefully. If we don't all of a sudden start selling 3 times as much Alinkers, then we're in trouble because we wouldn't have the product. And there's no way to catch up at the moment because Taiwan is struggling with an elevated bike demand in the world. So the wheels, we'll keep you posted in the newsletter. I would urge everybody to please sign up for the newsletter. The archive of the newsletter, so all the previous ones are on the website as well. Every week I send out a newsletter with active stuff that's going on. Somebody who got refused at the museum, the whole community shows up, and now the museum is welcoming Alinkers. Next week, the new museum in Philadelphia is doing the same thing. So we're going, but that's all in the newsletter. There's fun stuff, there's sharing, there's development on shipping dates, on new products, everything. So please sign up for the newsletter.
And a couple of things that I'm seeing in the Q&A in regards to the back wheel, replacing it with a scooter wheel. People are asking it, so they're a little bit confused now. Is it okay to use that or not? I think what you're saying, B, is it's an okay for now replacement, but what we're coming up with is going to be much better and more.
Not much better.
More
I don't know. I don't know
well,
if it's better. What I do know is that the wheel that we're coming up with is compliant with what the Alinker is tested for. And I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know
what I
that
mean.
about the wheel. The
Yeah.
wheel that Kevin Edge put on there might be much better. I don't know, because
Yeah.
I don't have the specs. I don't know what the weight capacity that it's tested for is gonna.
Yeah, so what we're coming up with is specifically designed for the Alinker. So you'll know that it suits the Alinker. But if you want to try that solid wheel, go ahead and try it. It's worked for a
One
lot of
question
people.
from Claudia: is the happy small still expected at the end of June? We had a few people that pre-ordered the happy small before we had to take it down because Taiwan told us like new products come back in 2022. Literally, that's what it is. But for the people that pre-ordered the happy small, I forced a few arms in Taiwan and asked them to please produce at much higher cost to us, but I wanted to fulfill those orders. So for the people that had pre-ordered the HS at that time, they will get their HS, and I think somewhere in June, and again in the newsletter, or Bilqis will send you the update to the people that had pre-ordered them. We have those. June, July is still in the works. That's still the expectation that yes, they will be delivered right then. Yeah, Claudia, you're waiting, I know.
I'm glad you answered those two questions, V.
Someone also has asked if they can move the brake to the other side of the handlebar.
Yes.
Yeah, the only thing is that if you move it to the other side, then the lock for the parking brake is now on the bottom. There's different handlebars that you can get in the market though, that are for, you know, you got brakes, but they're in medical device shops, I guess, for rollators and stuff. They have them that you can just put the weight of your arm on it, but that's specialized hand brakes. They are there, but in medical supply shops, they might have them.
And that is the beauty of the Alinker, that there are ways to customize it like that when you have a specific problem with something. I myself have very low hand strength. It's hard for me to use that brake, and I've thought about switching that out, but so far I'm okay. But I may have to do that someday because my hand strength is very, very weak.
Got a question here from Monica. Oh, sorry, B.
No, go ahead.
Monica said, is it harder to walk on carpet? So yes, as you go from different surfaces, it does become more difficult to move. When I go on grass and dirt, I have to exert a lot more energy. So I would assume that carpet would require a little bit more effort than hardwood floor. When I go to Walmart or a store, that's where it is the easiest to use the Alinker. I have the most fun. So yes, Monica, it would be a little bit more difficult on carpet probably. Depending on your carpet, it could be really
it's just
thin
like
carpet.
anything on wheels. If you know, if you're using a rollator or a wheelchair or anything, any of those are harder on carpet or a rougher surface. It's just physics. It's going to be that way. Linda Jo has asked again about inner leg bruising. I know we've talked to her about this offline, but I'll throw it out there. If any of you out there have had an experience with this and have any suggestions for her, because I've suggested everything I can think of as far as adjusting the seat and those kinds of things, but she's having a problem with the really bruising up her inner thighs and having a really hard problem with that. And she's really working hard. She is so determined to get it to work for her, and I'm so proud of her for that. But I'm at the point where I don't have any other solutions to give her. So if you all out in the community have some solutions to give her, if you've had that problem, or B or Brandon, you have any solutions to offer her?
I've only bruised the one time when me and B did the half marathon, and that's because I did 14 miles on the Alinker. But yeah, I think that would go along with running over your foot with the back. It's kind of a muscle memory. You'll learn how to use it to where it's not causing bruising, and also it could be a thing to where it always causes bruising. And I would hate for that to be the case. But everybody has a different body, and sometimes it just doesn't work. And I hate that because I do see how determined Linda is. But I think maybe some compression shorts might help. Maybe if you got some compression shorts, that way it's sliding easier past the seat. Maybe that would help with your bruising. So that would be my suggestion right now, Linda, is maybe some compression shorts.
Heather also just put something in the chat saying that she also uses wax. She waxes up, so that might be
Ooh,
another thing to consider.
I've never heard of that one.
I haven't either.
And someone else is suggesting, Joe, maybe you could possibly adjust your weight and possibly put one foot up to adjust yourself a little bit. So
It happens with
Distance
marathon
bike
runners
swag.
that have rubbing thighs. They chafe their thighs because it constantly rubs. So if you have loose skin, tighten it up with a tight pants or a bike pants or something, what you suggested, Brandon, because it is the looser skin that chafes and that rubs.
Yeah.
But try not to hurt yourself. Just take it
Mhm.
easy, bit by bit, because hurting yourself and bruising yourself is really not fun in that location, especially. And it's like trying not to hurt yourself.
Yeah, please.
And it says butt butter, never leave home without it.
I actually sell it. The whole thing, it says butt butter, butt butter on it.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I think we've tried to cover almost all of the questions that you guys have thrown at us. I'm sure we've missed one or two. It's just the nature of the beast, trying to scroll through all the questions that maybe we've missed one or two, but we will be going back and looking at this to make sure that we're pulling out any questions that we didn't cover, and we will try to cover those in our next technical Zoom. Being mindful of everybody's time, I just really want to thank everybody for being here, for joining us for this time. I hope you guys found it helpful. It's like I said, when you're a new Alinker user, sometimes you can kind of feel like a deer in the headlights and not quite sure exactly what to do with it. So hopefully this has been some helpful information. I know I learned a couple of things. And Brandon even learned a couple of things, and Brandon's a very seasoned Alinker user. So, so hopefully you did too.
I have another call. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye,
Bye-bye.
Diddy. Thank you for joining us. All right, everybody. I think the rest of us will go ahead and say goodbye, and hope the rest of you have a wonderful day. Hope some of you can get out there on your Alinkers today and enjoy them. Hopefully, maybe some of the information that you learned here today will help you do that a little better. So we will be having another one of these, and save up questions. Let us know if there's anything, like Brandon said, that's really pressing, that you don't want to wait a month to get an answer to, that comes up. Feel free to email Brandon or myself or Bilqis, any of us. If we don't know the answer, we'll find it out for you. So, all right. Love you guys. Have a great day.
Everyone have a great day. Thanks for coming.